Our next speaker, Mr. Stephen Roberts, is part of Hill Air Force Base's 309th Software Engineering Group. He has worked at Hill for over 7 years, and he is the author of Finding College Cash and the recipient of 35 scholarships and grants. 35 scholarships and grants. Stephen has been the guest of over 600 radio stations and podcasts. When he isn't speaking to audiences, he is spending time with his family, cooking, or even hiking like Aaron. Today, he is here to share his wisdom with you so that you can become a debt-free grad. Stephen, welcome to the virtual Air Force Talk stage.
Thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And for everybody listening or watching, wherever location you may be, a lot of times speakers will start out by saying about a victory that they had or something that happened. Well, I want to start out by telling you my biggest financial failure in college. This was actually something I want to share because I want you to know how to avoid this mistake, even if you're not going to college, because it seems to be a universal mistake that many people continuously make in different arenas. In my major, there were about 800 students, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And one day the department secretaries emailed all the students and said that a local company was offering 2 students each the opportunity to have a scholarship worth about double tuition and a paid internship, approximately about $20,000. And I was like, wow, that is awesome. But here's where my mistake enters. I go, there are 800 people in my major, and well, I've got homework to do, and I'm not going to get it anyway. So I didn't even apply, didn't even consider filling out the application, just kind of dismissed it. Well, about 3 weeks to a month later, the department secretaries emailed a congratulatory email to all the students and told us exactly how many people had applied. I had thought there would be something like 600, or if I stretched it, maybe 100 that have lots of competition. But to my utter horror, I found that there were three people. They had a 66% chance at getting 20 grand. And what irked me further was the announced winners were my classmates and peers. And because we had talked, I knew approximately their GPAs just as they knew mine. And I could have gone head to head with them. I'm not saying I would have won. I'm saying I could have if I had taken the opportunity to apply. But you know what? It wasn't a teacher. It wasn't the dean. It wasn't a scholarship judge or committee. It was me. I cost myself 20 grand because I wasn't willing to take the time to apply. How often do we do this in life, where we see an opportunity of any type and kind of disqualify ourselves? Something like, oh, I'd love to go for that promotion, but I wouldn't get it. Or, hey, that looks like a fun opportunity, but it probably wouldn't work out. Those types of things where we disqualify ourselves. From my own experience, I can tell you that the odds for you are much better than the odds against you, than you might even realize. I was thinking there would be hundreds of people. Really, there was 3. And I want to help you. The very first thing I want you to know in this talk is that be willing to go forward, be willing to risk, be willing to take that chance. It's true, things may not work out the way you anticipate, but what if they do? What if they do? What if it really is that great for you? Now, I work with parents and students, and I get asked several questions about college and the process and how they can save money on college and various related questions. But I want to tell you, a question that keeps coming up over and over again is, does going to a more expensive, more elaborate, or impressive school result in a better paying job? It was a fair question. There's been debate going on this back and forth for many years. Well, I really like the research done by the National Bureau of Economic Research by Alan Kruger and Stacy Dale. what they did with their study, I found really fascinating. They took students who applied to and were accepted into these elite schools, but decided for whatever reason not to go, whether family circumstances or financial, or just had a different opportunity. And so they went to a lesser accredited school. Well, what the researchers found out was 5 years after graduation, there was no real difference in the quality of job or in the pay for the vast majority of majors. Stop and think about that for a moment. It's really more indicative of personal attributes, ability to work hard, ability to communicate, ability to network and connect with other people. And a drive, of course, comes in there as well. But I love this study because they're comparing equally qualified people against equally qualified candidates. And that is really important. So it comes down for most people to personal attributes. The only exception that they found was for business majors. So if you're going to be be a Fortune 500 CEO, by all means, go to the most elite school you possibly can. But for everybody else, this is actually good news. You don't have to be in the most highly ranked college to make an impressive career. That's the first thing that I'd like to share. And there's a model that I use to help people understand exactly what to do and kind of guide them in the process of being able to get from where they're at through college with minimal or no debt. I call it the 3 S's. And they are select, save, and submit. Now, first, let's talk about select. Select means select your college carefully. Now, what I encourage parents and students to do is contact 3 to 5 different organizations or companies in the industry that you're interested in going into. Speak with the human resources department or the equivalent and ask them, what are your education requirements? What schools do you hire from? Are there any professional standards that I need to know about? These things will help you out tremendously because as you call or contact 5 different organizations or companies, what you'll find is similar patterns as to what they all require or the vast majority of them require. And that is really helpful. Rather than trying to take, say, your degree and shove it into what they want, you can know you meet the requirements. In the first job that I had after college, there were some people there who were excellent, had wonderful abilities. They could do many of the same things that I could do, but because they went to a school that didn't have the right accreditation, they couldn't actually progress. They were limited on their ability to get a new job or higher pay. So it is possible to go too low. We talked a moment ago about going to, don't worry so much about the high end, but what about the low end? Well, that's where contacting those companies can really help you understand what the company requires, or the industry for that matter, and be able to meet those requirements. So in addition, you can actually find colleges that are a lot more affordable. There's a big difference between, say, $3,000 a semester and $30,000 a semester. But for everyone, I tell you, select your college carefully. The second S is to save. Now, I know that's a word a lot of people don't like to hear, but it's actually so much better for you than you may realize. Saving gives you so many options and it allows you to be prepared. Now, a vehicle that I recommend people use is called a 529 Education Savings Plan. Now, a lot of people are familiar with a Roth IRA, and what that is where you take after-tax dollars, both state and federal, put it into a special account, and then upon completion of age, you can pull it out for retirement. Well, a 529 education plan acts similarly, except instead of the qualified expense being the retirement, it can actually be education. You can use a 529 education savings plan for tuition, books, class fees, lab fees, housing, and more recently, equipment like computers. This is really, really great because it allows you to take all of the gains coming out tax-free. Additionally, many states, they'll offer a match if you will actually contribute to sort of incentivize you to make contributions and plan for your future. This is really, really great because it incentivizes people to take the steps forward. Now, for all the parents out there, they might be going, oh, that doesn't matter. My kid doesn't make too much. Do you realize that if you took $100, have your son or daughter contribute $100 through either babysitting or paper route or their part-time job, do you realize that they could have a vast majority of their college education saved up if they start early enough? That's what's really great about compounding, is you can get all those gains coming out tax-free. The third S in the model is to submit. Submit, and I'm referring specifically to scholarships and for grants. Please don't make that mistake that I made earlier. The very first thing I would recommend people submit is the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Now, I can almost hear the groans going, but my parents make too much, or I make too much to qualify for that, to be able to get a Pell Grant. Well, did you know that in 2012 and 2018, they did independent studies and found that there were literally billions, yes, that's billions with a B, of money left on the table that wasn't claimed in the Pell Grant because they found the number one reason is people didn't think they would get anything. I can tell you from firsthand experience working with different parents and students that often people are shocked to learn that they can get some or even all of the Pell Grant available through the FAFSA. And that's actually great. Now, even if you got $0, nothing, I would still recommend that you apply for this. And you might wonder why. Well, the answer is this. Applying for the FAFSA opens you up to about 30% more scholarships and grants, both in your state and across the nation. And that's great because they require you to do this anyway. Having that extra step already taken care of up front helps you out tremendously. Can you imagine finding a great scholarship and reading through the requirements going, I meet every single one of these, and then the last one says, apply to the FAFSA, and the deadline soon? That could stop you from being able to get some money that you could get otherwise. That's why I recommend highly apply for the FAFSA. Now, as for scholarships, I have to say, look around your community, look at banks, look at places that you shop or grocery stores. They often have scholarships, but nobody really asks for them. But please take the time to look around and submit. My wife, she tells the story about how she was offered a half tuition scholarship, and literally all she had to do was click a checkbox on a digital form that says, I accept and submit. That's all she had to do. Well, guess what? She's like, oh, I'll get to it. I'll put it off. And she put it off. So I just kept going, oh, this day, I'll get to it. Well, she went to do it and she missed it by one day. All it literally took was her to click a checkbox digitally and say, I accept. That's all she had to do, but she failed to hit submit at the proper time and unfortunately cost her that scholarship. So what I'm encouraging everybody to do is to avoid that scenario. But if you'll do these three things of selecting your college carefully, saving for college, and submit, you can actually have a great opportunity to finish college debt-free or with very minimal debt as possible. And I encourage everyone out there to please avoid my mistake that I shared at the beginning. Be willing to go out there. Be willing to risk. Be willing to move forward because you don't know. You might just get it. And as I found with myself, often it only takes one to make a big impact in your life. But if you keep going and keep working at it, it changes your life forever. That's how I was able to get as many as I did. Some of them were for only a few $100s, but others, they were massively huge. And they changed my life forever because they allowed me to pay for school without having those encumbrances of student loans. And I encourage everyone out there to make the same commitment to yourself. Thank you very much.